So I did not finish. So this is Tony Pemberton, okay? So I believe that the three front runners, it's only going to be a top two. We only got a two-round voting system, so I do not see a majority victor. I do not see one person breaking the 50% threshold. So it's going to come down to the runoff election. So it'll come down to the top two. Who are the top two? You're going to have the top Republican, the top Democrat, the top conservative, top liberal. That's my guess. The populist, the leftist populist, and the right-wing populist. So Tony Pemberton, he had one really great idea when he was talking about the lessening crime. He hit crime over and over again, and he's right about crime, but when he says we need more police officers, he doesn't say who's going to check the police. We have the three branches of government, so that one branch checks the other branch, and, you know, humans to err is human, and people can be good or evil. So to assume that because what? A bunch of people have power that they're somehow not going. No, if anything, they need to have, you know. Anyways, they got the video cameras. So he was talking about more police to lower the crime. We need to get more police. We need to have more security guards. We need to have lighting, and I think lighting is actually inelegant, and I think it's actually a very elegant solution, an elegant, effective solution to shine a light in the darkness, to see light in the dark areas. Then that's good. More people can see what's going on when everything's dark. Anybody, you know, can hide in the shadows. Only the shadow knows. So I think lighting is a great solution. Some lights where Ricky Muniz was murdered would be nice. I think it, you know, if I was to, I'm not for sure. It seems like it's the same culture. Hey, don't do that, pal, pal. So I like to think that folks would side, you know, with Ricky, but that has not been the case. And so Tony Pemberton, he was the one who inspired me. He says, you know, let's live dangerously. We need to find out what we're all doing, and, you know, sometimes you got to get into people's business. And so he inspired me. I told him about how he inspired me, and then he was like, well, it's not my fault. He's got Roots Recycling. So Roots Recycling is a company, a corporation that he has. So he's got a recycling company. He's also doing some facilities manager, some shit. He's, you know, it seems like a nice, sensitive man. But this could all be marketing for him. People are talking about Roots Recycling, right? So Tony Pemberton was tapped on the shoulder, which I've already mentioned that I like. He's got no political aspirations. He's not doing it to get power. His background is in the private industry. But he knows that even church politics can be vicious, so he's for change. He's against the baseball stadium. He said some of his constituents on Facebook, apparently, he's got constituents already, disagreed. They said, no way, we have many more urgent needs in a baseball stadium. He's right, $25 million, it's kind of crazy. So do we need it legitimately? He says, I want to see Bessemer restored. That was pretty exciting. I'd like to see Bessemer restored. East Side to have a grocery store. Many areas nurtured. Downtown development. We have urgent needs. Crime rate has to come down. It must. We're number 1 in the state. We're number 10 in the nation for crime rate. We need money to get the crime rate down. So he's saying more cops, more lighting, more speed bumps. Once that's taken care of, then people will want to enjoy what we already have. People are already afraid to come to Pueblo. They don't want to be assaulted or robbed. So we got the state fair. We got to pour our energy and investment in these things. So he's right. He's right. He's right about you know, tackling crime. He's right about that Colorado Springs is a shithole. As a citizen of Pueblo, fuck Colorado Springs. Lighting is a good solution. Speed bumps, I wouldn't even think that would be a solution, but I guess it would slow people's cars down. People take their time instead of just flying by. I like that. You know, I want kids to be able to play freely. And the way people drive around here sometimes, it's like, what the fuck are you all doing? Are you trying to for some dumb shit to happen. Tony Pemberton has been very critical of the government, and I don't know if he means to be, but he's talking about how the regulations for small businesses, it was hard to get. He's talking about he doesn't know what the hell the Chamber of Commerce or Petco is doing. So he's a good businessman, but he doesn't know what the Chamber of Commerce is up to. Petco, shouldn't they have seeded him some money or tried to help him with his companies? So he says he's not a Republican nor Democrat. He's an independent. He said he did that on purpose for his entire life. He doesn't have a vision. I think Janet Wilson has a better vision. Jackie Massey is just working class through and through. Tony Pemberton is a good dude. He's a good man. And right when I had told him about how I was inspired by him, there was this white woman, very privileged, entitled. She just cuts in front of me and just, pretends I wasn't talking to him. And she said something about many of the questions were sexist. So I hope he doesn't get beat up by liberals and progressives so much that he loses the election because they, turn him into a little squeaky little. So Tony Pemberton, he said, don't blame me with that. So I don't know. I shouldn't take it so personal. It could have just been a joke. But I do feel like I want, if you encourage me to, invest all my money into a small business and then it collapsed, I don't know. I guess I would like for you to kind of care. Don't be like Jerry Seinfeld, give a damn. Be like, oh, man, I did give you that advice. Yeah, and now you're oh, man. Maybe let's look at the problem. What did you do wrong? And let's, can you get back up on your feet? What you going to do next? So he's talking about let's get radical. Let's get radical. Get into our neighbor's business. And so I hope that's not who he is, that, he runs away from being held accountable. He seems like he's an accomplished man, and it's interesting how people can stay behind a podium and they look like good speakers or crazy or whatever, but when you talk to them person to person, mano a mano, you get a different sense of them. And I want a mayor who, can do everything and is willing to do everything. And is willing to tackle any and every problem out there. Sometimes people just want to be listened to, but other times, they got real legitimate problems that need to be solved. So him running away from, so it's not like, okay, so that racist white woman, she was like, oh, what about the sexist thing? But she interrupted me. So I thought that was interesting. It's like, I'm allowed to interrupt you because you're a man. It's like, you're the sexist. I didn't really get to develop those real Pueblo City citizen issues, so I'd like to actually have another conversation, a one-on-one, more, maybe, I don't know, 5-10 minute conversation just to see what are you really about? What's really going on? So he doesn't want to spend money on anything outside of Pueblo. Tony Pemberton wants to spend money on people here, develop the citizens here. He says we need more cops. Lighting is an issue. He talks about speed bumps. Public areas need to get the streets lit. Private security firms in regards to Riverwalk. Tony Pemberton loves Nazis. We need more Nazis. That's what this city doesn't have enough of. We need more. So he is wondering if any ideas for checking the police. So, yeah, there's no check for the police brutality. He's got 30-day brain sessions. He does say dropping out definitely increases crime. That Russell Martinez just acted like, of course it does. Duh. What do you mean, duh? I think that people could be just as capable of being good as they are of being bad. So just because they're not going to school, that don't mean they're breaking the law. They could. Or maybe they got a job so they're supporting their family, It could go either way. So I like the lighting idea. I like the speed bumps. I like those kind of out-of-the-box sort of ideas. And then he also mentioned at the very end, turning criminals into cops, maybe get them on our team. So that's an interesting thing. Yeah, that'll encourage corruption. And if they don't have a check, now you're putting gangsters. I don't know. So I think maybe there might be a few worthy of them, but that just seems crazy, right? We're supposed to get into the other people's business. Now he's turning them into law enforcement officers. So a couple of the other candidates, the smaller candidates, the candidates that, I don't know, they seem nice enough, but they don't have a chance. You have Tom Crossell. Tom Crossell eventually said, we need to tax ourselves. We're not going to get money from the state or from the federal government. Taxing ourselves is surprisingly liberal. Everything Thomas Crossell talked about really was running to the right. He was like, I was talking to his neighbor, and he wanted to change, and it's like, what do you want to change? And it's like, I had to lead the change and get him to the change. It's like, man, I'm glad you had a little epiphany with your little friend there, but he strikes me as a right-wing conservative, so it was interesting that he was saying that we need to tax ourselves. That's surprisingly liberal. In terms of snootiness, Thomas Crossell strikes me as a right-wing Republican. Would you support or not the baseball team stadiums? He goes, he was for it, so he's flip-flopping Thomas Crossell, but he's evolving. So the baseball field, he says, is not important. He's opposed to the baseball field of dreams. He also says economic, like a snob. And he says we could spend our money better elsewhere. We could spend $25 million. Is that actually, are we spending $25 million on the baseball stadium? That would be insane. The more first responders covering more potholes. Those are the things we need to, we don't need a baseball stadium. We need to, fill our potholes and get more EMS and ambulance and fire and police. So, I don't know. It just seems very like generic things. It's not like a specific thing. We don't need baseball stadiums. We need solar trees. We don't need baseball stadiums. We need solar panels on top of our houses. And he doesn't suggest shelters. When he was asked about the homelessness question, Nick Ayers answered better than Thomas Crossell did. He said it was a good question, which, just buying time. Homeless people have been around since the beginning of time. He's the one who said that, which is just stupid. And it's basically to throw them overboard. It's to fuck them over before they even get a chance. So he says he wants to register all the homeless and get them IDs, and then that ID would entitle them to services, but getting them IDs, rounding them up in concentration camps. I mean, I feel like it could go one or the other. Are we enabling them, or are we just creating like fascists, another Pueblo, boys and girls club where there's just going to be violence and abuse and a bunch of crazy shit happening? So there's something about not going to cost a bunch of money, lots of profits, taking care of the homeless. No, not really. There's no homeless shelter in Pueblo. He didn't even suggest building a homeless shelter. He was saying, well, maybe we could do a tent city or a warming shelter, And then Tom Crossell talked about a story where he helped somebody change even though they didn't want to change, but then he made sure they were satisfied. He's just full of bullshit. He likes to hear himself talk. Russell Martinez, he said he didn't want to upset the apple cart, and then right afterwards he says, we need a different government. He said everything can be tweaked. I don't want to upset the apple cart, but then he flipped the apple cart over the cliff. Says we need a different government, one that takes care of the homeless elderly, and water, lots of issues. These kids today, somehow the kids, they don't take grandma to the grocery store. What the fuck are you talking about? Russell Martinez, what the fuck are you talking about? How would Russell lower the crime rate, a city-wide, a family-wide issue? It starts at the home. What we think is inside or outside the home has changed. Let's take grandma to the grocery store. Kids think differently. Spoken like a true Stanley Kluklowski. He's a working-class dude, but unfortunately he doesn't have good plank to his platform. He's not as progressive as I had hoped he would. Being working class, he was in favor of family leave or sick leave, but he just said sure. He wasn't like, yes, of course, if you're sick, we don't want to spread this. He didn't elaborate, which I don't know. I appreciated his efficiency. But Tom Crossell talking about getting IDs and registering them, it just sounds like cattle, and it sounds like they're going to off them all. They're going to wipe them out. It scares me. I don't know the motivation behind getting everybody tagged and put a little SSID thing in them and just scan them, right? Just put a little barcode on them. So Russell Martinez doesn't have a chance. Tom Crossell, I tried to look for a picture online. He don't even have a picture of himself online. Who are these people? They don't have an online presence at all. Are you trying to get people to vote for you, or what are you doing? Ted Lopez, Gary Clark, Charlotte Perez. Charlotte Perez said community gardens, which is a good idea, but who's implementing them, and can we raise community? We should be raising marijuana gardens all over the place. Charlotte Perez, she says she's out there, she's doing the mayor work, she already feels like the mayor, she loves what she does, she's prepared to move Pueblo forward. The biggest thing should look at Charlotte Perez as how she does with the Human Relations Board. She has a political position. She's got power right now. So she's the new commissioner. She's part of the Human Relations Board. So she's got some power. I'm not for sure exactly what the Human Relations Board does. To me, it sounds like they don't do anything whatsoever, but maybe they do things. And if she can get that board, up and moving to where they're actually making public statements and fixing people's problems, if they're actually doing something, that shows that proof is in the pudding, right? So she got political power, and she's kicking ass and taking names with her new commissioner job. She pointed out that the 11 out of the 20 or so candidates showed up. So I thought that there was a good applause line. People said, yeah, that's true. She's like, look who showed up and look who didn't show up. That says something. She also pointed out that some of these people who created the positions extended old government seats. So she's not impressed with people who are currently in the government. She's also brags about registering the most voters ever in all of Colorado history. She says in Pueblo history and Colorado history. She talks to everybody. They asked her about her cabinet, and she said that she talks to Caucasian Republicans all the way down to the homeless, so the rich and the poor, the snooty and the humble. She didn't mention anybody specific. She said it twice that she registered most people in Pueblo and Colorado ever. She is the one who's talking to the homeless, to the gang members, to the youth. And she also said that she had made a joke that she didn't win the city council, so she ran for mayor. That's what she told the chieftain, but that turned out to be exactly what she is doing. So Gary Clark, and she's a nice person. I think all of them should, have a right to speak, and they have interesting perspective. But it's only the only way Charlotte or Russell or Gary Clark or Ted Lopez, any of these would have, folks, Tom Kroschel, would have had a chance would have been with instant runoff voting. Now, without instant runoff voting, the stakes are so much higher. So 21 now, maybe 31 later. So if we get 30 candidates, out of 30 candidates, only 2 of those people are going to be the victors, and it's going to be a 13%er and a 12%er. So they're going to be barely winners. They're going to barely win over the others, and it's going to be by the skin of their chinny chin. So in a way, it's a toss-up. This race could go to anybody. I think there's maybe 5 or 6 very strong candidates, but a 13%, I think a 13%er could win this thing. The 13%er could get into the runoff election, and they could beat the 49%er. So that's all you need, 49%er. There's no majority. Then the second place is 13%, 13% versus 49%. Now, one of them, it's a coin toss, 50-50. Who is it going to be? So without instant runoff voting, I don't really think any of these candidates have a chance. For the conservative establishment candidacy, I think that, Flores surprised me before the city council, but I didn't really give him a close look over. So I had underestimated him before, so I don't want to underestimate him this time. But I don't see it. I don't see it. He doesn't have. He's not exciting. He's not interesting. He doesn't have any progressive planks. So it's not his ideas that's making him win the thing. He's got money. He's nice to people. He's shaking people's hands. Maybe he's just a good campaigner. Maybe they're just convinced with his, advertisements in the newspapers. And I don't know if he had TV ads but he had billboards too. So I just don't see it. I think Nick Gradisar has the Republican conservative thing locked up. He's been very careful with how progressive he extends himself. He's not extending himself very progressive, but a few. He's got, municipal electric. That's something that can be criticized. The war on poverty can be something that's criticized. And then non-ombudsman, right? That's a specific. He's creating more government, another government position. So, but I think all those are very progressive planks, and that could be enough. That could be enough. Jason Muniz ran on municipal Wi-Fi, and that's exciting. That's a very exciting idea. I think actually that's a better idea than municipal electricity. So what? So the main candidates I think would be, I think it's going to be Nick Gradisar. He's the establishment. Nobody's going to fuck with him. Not Lori Winter, not Flores, not Noraki, none of the traditionally, people that's been in there for a while. Nobody's going to fuck with Nick Gradisar, and he's been around for a long time, so he's been very careful. So I think he's playing it very conservative, which, I don't know, maybe everybody's conservative to some extent. But he's the conservative, so now you need the liberal. Now you need the anti-establishment. Now you need the leftist populist. Now you need the Huey Long. He said he didn't want to be called the kingfish because he's more of a Donald Trump. He's more of a right populist, a right-wing populist. So he's going to keep things exactly that he's going to be in charge. So I don't know, maybe you want that, right? Someone, a nice strong man like Papa Doc. So the top candidates, in my mind, I think it's definitely Nick Gardasar, and it's between Tony Pemberton, Janet Wilson, and Jackie Massey. And I'll probably end up voting for Jackie Massey, but I'd be happy with Tony Pemberton, and I'd be happy with Janet Wilson, and I think that would be a great race. That would be a great discussion for the top two candidates. So the establishment, they really have to, they're going to have to knock them out. And I don't mind. He seems like an okay guy, like personable. Gary Clark is personable. He's a nice man. He's a military man. All of his ideas come from a military perspective. I want him to keep talking because I like, where he's coming from. He answers the questions, so even when he doesn't, he doesn't have exciting answers. He said on the baseball stadium he was neutral on it, but that's what he, believes. And so he stands up. He is asked the question. He answers the question. So even though Nick Ayers and him and Charlotte and Russell and Tom and Ted don't have much of a chance, I like that they're talking. I want them to keep on talking, keep on answering questions. Gary Clark is poised and proper. He seems like a real good man. So, he's doing the best he can. He talks about 23 department heads, 3,000 employees. So he'll basically put the entire city in boot camp. That's what Gary Clark is going to do. And Ted Lopez, I think he's in over his head. He's a smart man. He's been working since he's a teenager, but that's his dad was throwing him out in the fields. He could do the job. Ted Lopez just isn't appealing to me. He's a Pillars of Unity guy. I like that. I like a lot of things about Ted Lopez. But I guess it's just, he seems like he's another loner. He seems like he's kind of like Ayers. Nick Ayers is kind of like, some loner dude who's like, you know what? I can do this. And I do think they could do it, but you got to have the politician touch. You do got to smile, and you do got to be nice to people because, people are fucking, they're babies, and they got tempers, and they're crazy. So, I like that he's a Pillars of Unity member. Kenny O'Neill, Joe Latino, there's one other, there's 4 of them. They got a monthly meeting. They've invited lots of people, resources. They've tried to get city council to acquire some building to turn it into a grocery store, barber shop, credit union, coffee shop, a multi-use building. And they're going to have to provide transportation. They're going to try to do, bus system. So they tried to do this, but they said that the city didn't give a flying fuck, nor Pedco. And Ted Lopez didn't seem like he couldn't wait to use the veto once he's got the power, right? And he's getting sick of begging the city to do these great ideas he's coming up with. So when he gets the gauntlet, then he's going to use that veto. He seemed very excited about that veto power. The bus system, so there's 2 different things there. The bus system, he wanted the citizens in the part of town to be able to move around more. If you're poor and you're stuck in one part of the city, no, you should have free bus systems. The citizens can move all over the damn city. It's bullshit that these rich middle-class people are pushing all this blight into the poor neighborhoods, and so they think that they're doing a good job because they swept it off their, the front of their storefronts. But it's, affecting different neighborhoods. It's affecting different, the poor neighborhoods. So it's making the already dangerous areas even more dangerous. So I think having a frequent bus system so citizens can move around more is a great idea. Whatever that building, he was talking about a grocery store on the east side, I guess. They wanted a multi-use building. Yeah, I think let's get on this. Let's do this. Pedco should have helped out with that shit. The city should give a flying fuck about a lot of these issues. And, you got a lot of smart people doing it. So instead of just stopping people from progressing, why don't you give them, like, hey, why don't you focus on this? Give them a different direction. Guide people. Jill Stein is wonderful because she had the political will to get it done. She didn't have all the solutions, so it was up to the rest of the people to help, So get the vision, and the people will come. If you build it, the people will come. I mean, the baseball stadium, the Field of Dreams thing, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a convenient issue. It's a convenient target for right now. I guess I'm neutral, too. So in a way, Gary Clark is right, I guess it's not just policies. You got to look the part. You're going to personify the Pueblo City, the character of Pueblo City. So this is the fucking NFL. Ted Lopez, nice dude, and I think he would actually do the job well. But I guess he's not my favorite. So yeah. They should have made it a unanimous decision. If the veto, all you need is 5 of 7 to override the veto. I think, why can't you just do all decisions are unanimous? If 7 motherfuckers can agree on something, we got problems. We got 3 commissioners. They don't always agree on things, but they do majority votes. Well, 2 people voted for it, so we're just going to go 2. Why? Try to get 3 people, get everybody on board with the thing, we don't always have to agree, but I think even the objections, listen to the objections. What are they objected to, and can you solve that? Is there a thing that, well, I don't want this to happen, okay, can we do it like this? So, yeah, let's aim higher. Ideally, let's make unanimous decisions, collective unanimous decisions. Sing Kumbaya, can't we all just hold hands and sing Kumbaya? Huh? So, yeah. Last thing, I guess I'll just remember a reminder of Gradisar. Gradisar created the mayor's office. Gradisar created the 2-round election system, not instant runoff voting, but the Kyrgyzstan, French, Haitian, Afghanistan 2-round election system. If there's not a 50% winner, then it goes to another election 2 months later, and then we'll find out in January 22nd or so who the mayor actually was. After the runoff election happens. So we won't know who the mayor is on election day. We will come find out in January 22nd, because I don't believe there's not a one candidate that's just going to break away from the pack, and unless it's Gradisar already. So he's the man to beat for the progressives and for the establishment. He is the kingfish. He doesn't want everybody to know that he's the front runner, but it'd be interesting if there was some polling done on this. He's right about the ombudsman. He's right about the municipal electricity. He's right about the war on poverty, not his solutions to the war on poverty, but that we do need to tackle poverty. So having some sort of poverty, poverty force, some poverty forum, poverty group. And he's also talking about healthcare and energy, so, yeah. Muni everything. Muni Wi-Fi, Muni oil, Muni steel, Muni trash, recycling solar power, waste to electricity plant. And anything else? No. Tony Pemberton, he's shitting on the how hard it is for small businesses, how they have to go through the regulations, how PEDCO doesn't help, how the city council doesn't help. PEDCO and the Chamber of Commerce. He's a businessman. So how come the Chamber of Commerce didn't help Tony Pemberton? How come the city didn't help him navigate through the regulations for starting small businesses? And how come the city, PEDCO, why wouldn't PEDCO invest in Chamber of Commerce and PEDCO? They're not interested in entrepreneurs, or are they just trying to maintain the current monopolies? I think it was Gradisar. We need to protect the jobs that are already here. I think he did say something like that. So we need to protect the job. No, we don't. We don't need to protect any job just to protect the job. Everybody needs a job, but we need to get rid of the bullshit jobs and get rid of the redundancies. And okay. So Tony Pemberton, peace.